Hi there, my name's Chris Winter, and if you're watching this video, there's a good chance you're considering buying this brand new camera here, the Canon 6D Mark II. So I thought in this video I'd give you a couple of reasons why I really like this camera, and also a few things that I don't particularly like about it, so hopefully I can help you make up your mind if this is going to be the right camera for you. By the way guys, I'm currently doing a huge giveaway at the moment. I'm giving away a Canon SL2 or a Nikon D3400 to one lucky subscriber. Now, all you need to do to enter is, of course, subscribe to this channel and my brand new travel channel, which is linked in the description box below. And guys, also definitely make sure to check out my brand new list that I just made, the best cameras for travel. I go through some of the cameras that would be best for you. So if you want to check that out, I'll put a link in the description box below this video and you can take a look. But anyway, let's get started and talk about a few things that I like about this Canon 6D Mark II. To me, the biggest new feature on the Canon 6D Mark II is its inclusion of Dual Pixel Autofocus. Now, if you haven't heard of this before, Dual Pixel Autofocus was first introduced on the Canon 70D a few years ago. Before that, autofocus in video on DSLRs was pretty awful. It was stuttery, slow, and it used to constantly hunt. But you know, that all changed with the Canon 70D and has now since been included on cameras such as the 80D, the 5D, and a few other cameras. Essentially though, with Dual Pixel Autofocus on the Canon 6D Mark II, wherever you point your Canon 6D, it's going to smoothly and cinematically come into focus. Once you've used it, it's just fantastic. The Canon 6D Mark II also now has a touchscreen, which is actually a really useful thing, especially with that Dual Pixel Autofocus, because wherever you touch on the back of the screen will again smoothly and cinematically come into focus, and you can adjust the autofocus speed settings in the settings on the Canon 6D as well. Not only that, the Canon 6D Mark II has face tracking as well, which works great. I normally film all of my videos by myself. In fact, I'm using it right now. I'm using the Canon 70D, which has an older version of Dual Pixel Autofocus, and you can see that this even works really quite well. So as I move in and out, you can actually see that my face still stays in focus, and I'm actually shooting at f1.8. So it's not particularly easy, even if you were doing this manually focusing. So Dual Pixel Autofocus on the Canon 6D Mark II, it's even better than this, and it's great. Now, of course, you can still pull focus manually, which is totally fine, but for a lot of people, having that great autofocus feature will be a lifesaver. Oh, and by the way, guys, I was thinking about doing a head-to-head comparison between the Canon 6D Mark II, the Canon 5D Mark IV, and the Canon 80D. So if you'd like to see that, let me know by leaving a thumbs up on this video. Now, I briefly mentioned before that the Canon 6D Mark II has a touchscreen, but it's also an articulating screen. And for me, this is a pretty big inclusion, so I'd like to talk a little bit more about that as well. Now, for many years, pro cameras have shied away from including a flip screens on their cameras, but I'm so glad that they included it on the Canon 6D Mark II. It really is fantastic. Now, sure, for 95% of the time I'm going to be shooting with a viewfinder, but I've been finding myself more and more these days using the LCD screen on the back to take shots that I'd normally kind of struggle to get. For example, taking shots from high up or low to the ground are a lot easier to take, and even on a tripod, it's quite a lot easier as well. Let's be clear here, it's definitely not going to make you take any better photos, but it does make it a little bit more enjoyable, and it might make you take that shot which you might not normally think about taking because you do have that flip screen. And for video work, the articulating screen is a must and really makes life a lot easier. If you pair that fully articulating screen with that Dual Pixel Autofocus that I was talking about just before, this really is a beast for video. Now, speaking about that articulating screen, another really nice feature on this camera is its inclusion of a touchscreen. Now, I know a lot of professionals and old school photographers might not be used to using a touchscreen on their DSLRs, and they might not even like it, but I actually love it, and I've found that it's really sped up my workflow. And sure, I still use all the buttons on the back of my Canon 6D Mark II, and I use all the dials and scroll wheels, and I still look at the top LCD screen as well, but having this touchscreen makes it so much easier to quickly deep dive through your menu system rather than having to press buttons or hold it down. It's just so much easier just to flick through it. It really is a lifesaver. Not only that, but when you do get into the menus, it really is a lot easier to move through the different sections using just the touchscreen. For video, the touchscreen is brilliant. When you pair it up with the fantastic new Dual Pixel Autofocus, you can simply touch on the screen, and wherever you touched will smoothly and cinematically come into focus. It's amazing, and once you've used it, you'll never really want to use any other autofocus system again. It's just such a winning combo. Now sure, a lot of photographers might not be too quick to appreciate the touchscreen, but I say give it a go, and you'll quickly fall in love with how easy it is to use. Now, I did quickly want to touch on a couple of things that I don't like about the Canon 6D Mark II, starting off with the fact that we don't have 4K on this camera. To be totally honest, for a camera that's come out in 2017, I'm actually filming this in 2018, to not have 4K, especially at this price range and with a full frame sensor, they've totally shot themselves in the foot here because this would have been such a winner. Ever since I started shooting with the Canon 80D, I always thought that if they could put 4K in that body and also a full frame sensor, that they would have such a beautiful camera, such a winner. And they should have done it in the Canon 6D Mark II, and they missed out on a massive opportunity. Now, we all know that Canon, in terms of the video stakes, has got the big C300 cameras and things like that. But this would have been such a great camera for that kind of prosumer market, and they really did miss out on an opportunity. Now, for me, I still shoot in 1080p, and I'm totally happy doing that. But if 4K is a really big, important thing for you, there are better cameras. The Panasonic GH5 is going to be great. The Sony A7S camera is going to be better. But really, they did miss out a lot, and this does bug me a little bit that this doesn't have 4K built into the 6D Mark II. I quickly want to talk about something that's not super interesting, but something that's actually really important, and that's the battery life on the Canon 6D Mark II, because it's pretty impressive. Now, I was able to get about 1100 shots on a single battery charge while shooting stills. When shooting with the LCD, battery life wasn't as good, but that's kind of to be expected. Video battery life on the Canon 6D Mark II was actually pretty good as well. Now, this is using those LPE6 batteries, and they're just winners. They've been in lots of different Canon cameras for a while. Now, it's not as good as say a Panasonic GH4 in battery life, but it really is quite good, especially in video mode. Another thing that I would have loved to have seen on the Canon 6D Mark II, but something that's not a particular deal breaker for me, is dual card slots. For a lot of photographers, such as wedding photographers, having a dual SD card slot is actually a really, really important thing, because they need that redundancy, because they're generally shooting a once-in-a-lifetime moment. For me, it's not such a big deal because I don't actually shoot that many weddings or time-sensitive photos. But if you do know that you absolutely need two SD card slots, it is a little bit of a pity, so it might be something that you might want to look into. If not, you can probably just live with one SD card slot. So the 6D Mark II now includes wireless technologies such as Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and also NFC, which is actually a pretty cool thing to have. Essentially, this allows you to quickly transfer photos to your phone and computer over the air, and I found it pretty stable, especially when using the Canon Camera Connect app. So like I was talking about before, this camera here is kind of targeted at that wedding photographer kind of market, so I think it's a great feature to be able to quickly transfer some photos from your Canon 6D Mark II, maybe to your phone or to the bride's phone or something like that, so they can have a couple of really nice memories pretty quickly. Now, we've also got GPS built in, which is something I don't use a whole lot, but it can be useful, especially if you want to keep track of exactly where your shots were taken. So there are a few thoughts on the Canon 6D Mark II. Do I like this camera? Yeah, I really do. Do I think you should buy it? Well, if you can get past the fact that we don't have dual SD card slots and we don't have 4K video, this is a brilliant camera to get, especially if you're coming from something like a Rebel series camera and you want to upgrade to a full frame camera. It really is a beast, and I really do like this camera. It's going to be very popular for 2018. And guys, also definitely make sure to check out my brand new list that I just made, the best cameras for travel. I go through some of the cameras that would be best for you. So if you want to check that out, I'll put a link in the description box below this video and you can take a look. That's it for me. Hopefully I was able to help you, or even just a little bit. Hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.